Coming up on the Blerd Breakdown, it's a gentleman's sweep, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, the Dodgers have won the World Series. We talked the Love is Blind Season 7 reunion, which was full of drama, and you know I gots to get all up in it. Lanterns has cast Kelly Macdonald, Quentin Tarantino praising Joker Folie Deux. We've got Megan Thee Stallion's Halloween costume, and is Jerry Jones actually losing it? All that and more coming up right now. Let's go Doyers! What's going on, everybody? I am Winston Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, the pop culture show from when you need to know. See, what had happened was, now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I'm dropping new content, man, and definitely throw a like and a comment on this about any of the stories that you're hearing on here, any comments you may have. All y'all Yankee fans, because y'all gonna be haters and whatnot, that's totally fine. You can do that. Christian, I'm talking to you. But yeah, man, we have got a lot of fun stories to talk about. But of course, I gotta talk about my adoptive home, man. Before we get on to the rest of the stuff, the Los Angeles Dodgers have officially clinched their 8th title with a 4-1 series victory over the New York Yankees. This is AP Sports reporting. You got to hand it to Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Yankees certainly did. Damn. Bores. When New York let LA back into the World Series Game 5, the star-studded Dodgers did what they've done all year, kept on going and finished. Fans celebrated in Los Angeles on Wednesday night after the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series, defeating the New York Yankees 4-1. After taking advantage of 3 miscues to erase a 5-run fifth-inning deficit during one of the most memorable mid-game meltdowns in baseball history, the Dodgers rallied on sacrifice flies from Gavin Lux and Mookie Betts in the 8th to beat New York 7-6 on Wednesday night. We're obviously resilient, but there's so much love in the clubhouse that won this game tonight, Betts said. That's what it was. It was love. It was grit. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. I'm just proud of us and happy for us. Aaron Judge and Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit back-to-back home runs in the first inning for New York. Alex Verdugo's RBI single chased Jack Flaherty's in the second, and Juan Carlos Stanton's third-inning homer against Ryan Brazier built a 5-0 Yankees lead. But multiple errors by the Yankees helped Los Angeles score 5 unearned runs in the 5th. It was going to sting forever, Yankees manager Aaron Boone said. I'm heartbroken. In the 6th, the Yankees took the lead back, making it 6-5, but the Dodgers loaded the bases against loser Tommy Colleen in the 8th before 2 sacrifice flies off Luke Weaver. Judge doubled off winner Blake Treinen with 1 out in the bottom half, and Chisholm walked. Manager Dave Roberts walked to the mound where Treinen was at 37 pitches. I looked in his eyes and I said, "How you feeling? How much you got?" Roberts recalled. He said, "I want it." And I trust him. Trenton retired Stanton on a flyout and struck out Anthony Rizzo. Walker Buehler made his first relief appearance since his rookie season in 2018, pitched a perfect 9th inning for his first major league save as the Dodgers poured onto the field to celebrate, capping a season in which they won 98 games in the regular season and finished with the best regular season record in the league. There's just a lot of ways we can win baseball games, Buehler said. Obviously, the superstars we have on our team and the discipline, it just kind of all adds up. Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers' record-setting $700 million signing and baseball's first 50-homer, 50-steal player, went 2 for 19 with no RBIs and had 1 single after separating his left shoulder during a stolen base attempt in Game 2. Freddie Freeman hit a 2-run single to tie the series record of 12 RBIs set by Bobby Richardson over 7 games in 1960 and was voted series MVP. With the Dodgers 1 out from losing Friday's opening game, Freddie hit a historic first-ever walk-off grand slam in a World Series in Game 1 that sparked Los Angeles to the title. The Dodgers earned their 8th championship with this victory. They won a neutral-site World Series against Tampa Bay in 2020 after a 60-game regular season, but couldn't have a parade because of the coronavirus pandemic. Ending a season that started with a gambling scandal involving Ohtani's interpreter, the Dodgers won for the 4th time in 12 series meetings with the Yankees. New York remains without a title since its record 27th in 2009. Woo, boy. Look, man, I am elated in the sense that for me, most of y'all know I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, so I got to watch my team win their first ever World Series last year in the Texas Rangers. And then I got to watch this year my adoptive home turn around and win a World Series. And I think the thing that's most exciting about it is, like, again, I've now been here 18 years. So I've lived in Dallas the same amount of time I've lived in LA. So Rangers will always be 1A, but this is definitely 1B for me. So it's exciting to see one of the teams that I really, really enjoy watching and cheering for pulling it out, let alone some of my best friends. A lot of them that I live here in LA with now were born and raised here. So this is their home team. And this is the same feeling that I got last year from that, man. It's also crazy to see teams that I cheer for in championships now in 3 different championship scenarios. Fortunately, 2 of them came out with victories. The Mavs weren't able to pull it off this past summer. But I'm really hoping that, maybe some of between the Rangers and the Dodgers, that'll rub off on the Mavs and they can pull it off. I mean, Klay Thompson's looking really good. That big 3 is pretty cool, man. But this was cool to watch. I went to like 2 or 3 Dodger games this season. It's crazy the draw that Ohtani brings from everybody, but especially from the Asian community. I feel like every time he stepped up to bat, every Asian person in the building had their phones out just ready, being like, I gotta catch an Ohtani homer if I can. So it was wild to see that, like, he played fine, but he really wasn't playing up to his standard in this series. But that just goes to show it wasn't just Ohtani. This is a well put together, hard fighting team. And Freddie Freeman, I didn't know this because I don't follow baseball hella close. There's so many games there's a little bit of a disconnect to me. So I like to go to games. And I love playoff baseball, so I'm always keeping an eye on where the records are and who's going to be there. But I don't follow it the way I do the NFL or the NBA, right? So I didn't know as much about Freddie Freeman. So I'm thinking, man, this dude is just blowing up. And someone's like, you're a dumbass. Like, he was an MVP. Like, he's the man. He's just been injured. And I was like, okay, bet. Because I know Mookie. Mookie's the man. He was doing all sorts of stuff. I know Kike. Like, I know a lot of players on the team. I just wasn't super familiar with Freddie's game. And Freddie became that dude, bro. Like, to start off with a grand slam in the first game that you think you're about to lose to the Yankees, and then to hit a homer in every single game whenever it needed to happen, I guess, and he didn't in this last game, but at least still scoring and being the reason that the Dodgers are able to come back and make this happen is phenomenal, let alone seeing you're down a 5-0 deficit. People are starting to panic, especially after the ass whooping from game 4, but they pull it out. They grit it out, man. It was incredible to watch. And I'm so excited to see what happens with the city. I'm pissed off at the fact that I guess LA can't say that we're better than Philly anymore, because apparently at the victory party last night, the people were setting buses on fire. So that's fun. Apparently it was a sacrificial bus. This wasn't like we commandeered this bus in the name of the Dodgers. It was like a bus that was already fucked up as is, but people set it on fire. But I'm excited for a victory parade, man. All that good stuff. I've never gotten to go to a championship victory parade before, especially, again, not for a team that I support. But again, I haven't been to one at all. So I am ecstatic, and I think this is super dope. Sorry, not sorry to the Yankee fans, man. I'm going to be real. The minute that dude grabbed Mookie's hand and almost could have potentially really hurt him or broke his wrist, I said, you just unloaded a whole bunch of bad voodoo on your ass. Like, you probably did well in that one game, but I was like, you are asking for this ass whooping now, because real talk, I was saying that fan in game 4 that did that, I was saying he shouldn't just be banned for the game. I think that I was like, if he's a series ticket holder, take his season ticket holder, take his season tickets. And I said you should just ban him from MLB games, period. If not for good, at least for a season, because you need to send a message. People need to stop assaulting athletes, whether it be the physical scuffles of grabbing their wrists over the walls or things like that, or screaming, N-words and all sorts of horrible things at them. Like, you see how many times Russell Westbrook, because he don't play that shit, gets into arguments with fans, or LeBron has had people escorted the same way that, like, Caitlin Clark had people escorted. Stop fucking with athletes. Just because you're paying to see them play does not give you the right to just treat them however the fuck you want like that. You need to see consequences for that shit. Be fucking respectful. So the minute he grabbed it, I was like, you unloaded some bad juju, baby, and you don't understand what you just did to yourself. And lo and behold, here we are. So What do you think, man? What did you think of the World Series? Did you watch? Are you happy for the Dodgers? Are you upset that the Yankees lost? Do you think that motherfucker should be banned? Tell me all the things that you are thinking on this, and let's go to the next story. Love is Blind Season 7 is officially over, and we had the reunion special come on last night. It was a double whammy between the World Series ending and the reunion special. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a big Love is Blind person, spoiler alert, I'm going to go through the reunion as is and my thoughts on it. I always do. In the description, you can see the time code. So if you're not interested in this, you can go to the time codes. You can jump to the next story. I'm going to be talking about Lanterns and a new casting coming up after this story. But let's get into this real quick. So we did have the reunion. As you see in the photo here, we had Garrett and Taylor, Tim and Ashley, Ramses and Marissa. We had Hannah and Nick. We had we had Leo and Brittany, we had Monica and Steven, we had Alex and Tim, and we had some people from previous seasons as well as some folks in this season. So Katie, the one that Nick was sort of dating and had to talk to, was there. Bliss and Zach showed up and they've had a baby. You had Marshall making all them faces again, AD also making faces, and then Jessica from season 1 is married and has kids now. I am happy for her. I didn't really necessarily need to see her just shitty ass on here, but I hope she's happy. I genuinely hope she's happy and her life is going well. I just didn't need to see her. But let's talk about this season's cast, man. Starting off with Garrett and Taylor. Absolutely adorable. Probably ultimately ended up being my favorite couple throughout all of this. The big controversy for them originally during the show was, there was a text with an ex situation. They didn't really talk about that at all. It was just Garrett shutting the girl down, but he kind of lied about what they talked about, which was a little weird. But the other thing was Taylor really wanted to move home to San Diego, and Garrett wasn't sure how he really felt about it. He said he would do it, but he was like, I don't know. But then ultimately they've decided that they're going to live in DC, and there's this very cute quote from Taylor who said, when you get married, you become a unit. And home is with Garrett, and I'm excited to figure this out next. I'm excited to figure out this next chapter with you. And I thought that was really sweet, man. I mean, she had her heart set to be living close to her family, but ultimately Garrett was like, I just don't know if I can do this, and he was really struggling with it. But they talked it out and they figured it out together, and I thought that was a beautiful thing. Another couple that ended up ultimately getting married, Tim and Ashley. There was this whole scandal about not Tim. I'm sorry, Tyler. Tyler and Ashley. So there's a big scandal with Tyler because there was this whole situation of, he supposedly had 3 kids and he said that he was a sperm donor for them. But then the internet is going to internet, and somebody claimed, as he said, I didn't spend time with the kids don't know me. Be like, nigga, please, here's you in photos with them and in pajamas and Christmas and blah, blah, blah. And everybody was like, myself included, be like, oh, so you just like lied, bro. Like, what's going on? But we found out that ultimately what it was, the lesbian couple that he donated the sperm to, the friend of his that asked him to do it, their spouse, their partner actually left. They split up, and so they left the kids by themselves with Taylor, or with Taylor's friend. So Taylor, because he came from a single parent household, didn't want those kids to have to experience that. So he was around to kind of help, but what he ultimately said was, I don't want the kids involved in all this. I'm not super close, and it did get a little wonky, but I was there at the beginning to help my friend and for these kids. But he ultimately told Ashley, he told her pretty soon after they did the reveal about what was going on, and they ultimately made the decision because the internet was going to internet. We will have to talk about it somehow. And so they actually staged their talk in, I think, episode 7 or 8, whatever it was. So Ashley actually said, for the record, this is something he never wanted to share on camera. I just didn't feel like it would be an authentic experience if we didn't discuss this. And I think that that's actually really mature. You need to put enough of the information out there so that, you're trying to get ahead of it, but trying to protect those kids' identity, safety, all that stuff. But of course, people were shitty about it. Apparently their birth certificates are on the internet, all this stuff just being exposed like that, their faces all over the place. And that's the part where I really think we gotta, as people, chill out. I'm not saying we don't want the team, we don't want the scandal to be worried about these, some of these folks, because we get emotionally connected to people like Ashley. But there is a point at which we do need to step back, because now those kids are out there, and the whole point, it sounds like what he was doing was to protect them. I know some people aren't going to necessarily believe that one way or the other, but that's the story that's there. It seemed very plausible. Ashley seems very happy. She's like, I wasn't blindsided. So at a certain point, it's not our life. Let them live their life. But at the end of the day, let us be genuinely careful about exposing other people that did not sign up to be for television, especially minors. I think that that's something that we got to be careful about. Like, the next time that shit happens, instead of putting the fucking kids' faces up there, if you want to do that, blur their faces and show him. But don't show birth certificates. Don't show all that stupid shit. Like, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I did appreciate how much they truly love each other and them talking about it. Up next, we had Ramses and Marissa. Oh boy. This one was wild just because, you know, the breakup seemed like, I felt like a lot of us could sense what was going on one way or the other, but it was interesting to watch this kind of play out. Ramses actually said about the breakup, he said, you know, there was one day where it really hit home for me, and I realized and recognized if I move forward with Marissa, every day I would be in a place where I would feel exhausted and overwhelmed. I don't want to change who she is. She deserves a person and a love that will embrace who she is fully. Just felt that person couldn't be me. So what he was referring to at that point was just like he felt like their energies were actually very different. You could tell with Marissa, she is very bubbly. She is very high energy, things like that. And it seems like he's, you know, he can be, but he seems very kind of mellow, not really a hippie, but just like, I can see where if you're not on the same wavelength, I understand what you're saying. It just feels very rude and very abrasive to say that one way or the other. I get what he's saying, and maybe you find a different way to word it slightly, but I get it. It's live television, or you're on camera, so maybe you're not wording that very well, or maybe you're just a dick. Who knows? But they did clear up the, you know, he wasn't never trying to force her to do any sort of, you know, hormonal birth control if she wasn't, or anything like that. They figured out other options. It still sounded like he's being whiny about the condom thing. But we also found out that apparently Marissa is dealing with some health stuff. This was off to the side. This wasn't at the reunion. So it was kind of shitty that, like, he was, you know, still kind of pressuring for sex when she was not feeling well. So that's not great. But yeah, I think probably my favorite moment was Marissa's mom being like, I wanted to punch you in the throat. Which is, that's a real mom right there. But she also said, I thank you for doing this before the wedding. Instead of breaking her heart at the altar, like, you didn't have to see how you left her and the pieces she was left in, but at least you didn't embarrass her in front of all of her friends and family, and at the altar would have been way more traumatic and worse than doing it beforehand. So it was an interesting conversation, and by far not the worst one. There were way worse things that are coming up that we'll talk about, man. Next, you had Hannah and Nick. This was crazy, man. I really did not like Hannah, and this got followed up with the fact of they started calling her out for how direct, and not just direct, but how bitchy she was. And she admitted it, and said she was self-aware, but she's that self-aware type person that just because you are aware of something, if you don't do anything about it, you're just an asshole at that point. So she even said, you know, I'm just direct. That's inherently who I am. I'm just a bitch sometimes. I get it. I know. Okay, again, bitch, that doesn't mean that you can just continue to do that. If you know you're pissing people off, if you know you're being condescending, if you know you're being disrespectful, like, you got to try to change things. That was actually my beef, you know, a couple months ago with, like, Amanda Seales when she was did her Shay Shay interview, and she was talking about, you know, all the different ways in which, like, you know, I'm just different and people don't like that. So, you know, it is what it is. That's fine. You could stand on business like that, but if people don't like you, it's like, but then why won't people hang out with you? You can't have it both ways. Either you kind of get the social contract one way or the other, and you don't mute yourself per se, but you attempt to, like, try and you know, change just a little bit, just enough that, like, you kind of fit within the puzzle, or you be an outsider, and that's fine. Neither one is wrong, but you can't have it both ways. So she can't sit here and be like, I don't get why people are mean to me, or, like, say I'm such a bitch, but I know I'm a bitch, but also I don't understand why people think I'm a bitch. Like, you can't really have it both ways. You if you understand, you got to do something about it. Now, it didn't really stop there, because it took people pulling teeth to get her to apologize to Nick. But then Nick was actually asking for people to stop putting so much hate on her on the internet. And then she was like, well, why do you like mean comments about me? And then this opened a whole Pandora's box about a conversation where Nick was going around telling the other castmates that Hannah was a grenade and that she was ugly, that she was a 5 out of 10, all this stuff. And he denied it and denied it and denied it. Like, people are making it up. And then Marissa, who's quote unquote her best friend, was like, no, I got proof. So-and-so said it. And then this person said it to this person. And then, Monica heard from Steven and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, what? And Marissa, Monica, Steven, Alex, Ramses, all backed Hannah and were like, yeah, bro, you just need to be real. You actually did say it. And honestly, the dudes deciding to like fess up was probably some of the funniest shit, just in the way that they were like, yeah, he said it. It was actually really funny. We're like, bro code, they didn't want to say nothing, but they also realized they didn't need to get dragged no more, so they were being honest. They were like, you said it, bro. Just own up. And Nick got really upset and defensive about it, but it is what it is, man. But you also got Katie. That was the girl that supposedly was Hannah's best friend, which, how are you best friends with somebody after 3 days? Or how, they're only in there for like a week or two, I believe. But like, called out Hannah being like, yo, I didn't know I caused this much drama. Like, and the fact you say you don't trust me, like you see the conversation, like nothing really happened or whatever. Like, or we still feel this way? I thought we put this behind us. And it's like, oh no, we're fine. And what that made me feel is to know that Marissa is this close to Hannah, and to know that Hannah clearly was throwing some shade still at Katie. It was like, no, we're good, whatever, all that shit. It just felt very, I started to like Marissa a little bit less for being that close to Hannah, because I just don't like Hannah. I don't like Hannah or Nick, honestly, at this point. So, I hope Katie's good. She seems like a sweet person. Zach and Bliss, they showed off their baby. Then we got Leo and Brittany. Leo was the dude that was always talking about his Rolex and being an art dealer. He was 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, artist, like finance. Like, his ass going on and on and on about that. And Brittany wanted to be the trophy wife and all that. Didn't get to go to Cabo. They both admitted they got it because they weren't a strong couple, but then they ended up going to Miami and realized we're better as friends, and apparently best friends now. They help each other with their dating life, all that kind of stuff. They share stuff with each other. It was really, really interesting to watch, including Leo really seeming like he had some self-reflection after watching himself on TV. He's like, I'm someone that likes to have control, and I'm trying to work on taking other people into consideration. That's where he gave this very clumsy metaphor about, if you ever been at a restaurant and, everybody's ordering and they're like, what do you want? And you're like, come to me last. And you're trying to take as much time as you can. Do you want the steak? Do you want the pasta? And then you're forced to make a decision. But like, the thing is, the food has feelings. And so he like apologized to Hannah, and then he apologized to Brittany. I don't think the metaphor was necessarily bad, but again, we're talking about wording here. If he had said like, have you ever been at a restaurant with a group of friends? Everybody's, figuring out what they want, and then it's on you. And if we're gonna say, and you don't know if you want the steak, you want the steak or the fish, or the steak or the pasta. Except if he had said, except they're not objects, they're not food. These are human beings. These are people. And so I was objectifying them and thinking them not as people with feelings and thoughts and emotions. I was just thinking of them as, what does Nick want? If he had kind of worded it a little better that way, because he got called out for comparing them to food, then it would have shown with his language just that, like, I genuinely do see these two women as full human beings, but I didn't at the time, and I fucked up. And that's still what he said. It just came out clumsily. But I gotta give Leo the most improved player award for this, man, honestly, because I was actually really impressed with his ability to kind of bring all that in. Then, of course, we get to Monica and Steven. Holy shit. that was its own can of worms there. There was an interesting comment that Steven made, because we got to the sleep apnea test, and we were, talking about this other woman he was DMing. And, he was like, at one point he was like, hey, let's just like be chill and like respect this other woman to not bring, she like not put her personal business, like not put her out there. And Monica was like, well, you certainly didn't respect me, which was a bar and was very accurately true. But I think the two things can be true at the same time. He very clearly did not respect Monica and needed to own up to that, which he apologized a number of times. But I think at the same time, unless we know that this woman straight up was like, hey, I know you're on Love is Blind and like blah, 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 to not put her personal info out there. You can have the conversation. That's the important part. But they didn't sign up for TV. So I think that was, I think both comments were correct. I think Monica was a little more correct because she was like, yeah, I was engaged to you, asshole. You didn't respect me. But I understood what he was saying in that moment. What became interesting as he did continue to apologize and talk about how he has a lot of growth to do and he's working on himself and things like that, he did continue to kind of get berated. And eventually he's like, you know what? Nobody wants to believe me. Nobody wants to hear my side of the story. I understand that I completely fucked up. How much more responsibility do I have to take? And I thought it was kind of interesting where I was like, you're both simultaneously throwing a temper tantrum right now. And I'm like, come on, my dude. But at the same time, I get what he's saying in that, like, he did spend that whole segment and beforehand apologizing, admitting he was wrong, realizing he needs to do better, etc., etc. And Monica even said, we talked about how he has cheated in the past and he's trying to be a better person and all that. She's like, I didn't feel blindsided or I was blindsided per se. I didn't see the red flags because it sounded like he was on that growth period. So still feel bad for her, still want, she got her, ability to be treated properly and get that response. But I get it. There's a point at which you don't need to dogpile anymore. The man has been beat up enough for it. I feel like he admitted he was wrong. And then anybody that wants to date him in the future, just be aware of, like, he has a past. But, at a certain point, we don't need to keep going. And then we got to the final major fight of the evening, and that was Alex and Tim and getting into what happened in Cabo, what happened for the ultimate breakup. I'm going to come on to the solo for this so we can talk about it, because this actually was an interesting conversation. So they were talking about how at Cabo, she was feeling some type of way, Alex was, because her dad was going into a rehab facility, probably assuming some sort of physical therapy or something, just knowing about his MS. And she was really upset. Tim went to go check on her. She really just didn't want to talk. It kind of spiraled into an argument. Voices got raised. They were in a bathroom while this was happening, and she called him a little ass bitch, and that set him off from being spoken to out of his name by his fiance. And so he started really yelling, and she put her hand over his mouth, and he said that was disrespectful too. But she goes, "I did that because I understood. We are on camera being recorded. I was trying to protect him because I didn't want them to think that things were worse than they actually were. I didn't want them to paint him as something that he wasn't." And he admitted himself, he's like, I'm a 6 foot tall, 225 black man. People are going to sit here and think I'm aggressive or I'm violent or whatever, especially if they can't see something, if the producers have to run in here. So it was an interesting situation that even when it was clear, oh, this is falling apart and they're not right for each other and this is actually toxic, the idea of understanding where they were and what black identity is, and especially within the confines of television and role models and all that stuff, and trying to protect him and try not to paint him as something that could really, that horrible stereotype that could fall him one way or the other. Now, mind you, the way he talked about some other stuff, he gave me some serious, I didn't even call this out, my girlfriend called it out, that he gave some serious, Hotep energy talking about, so y'all women want to be taken seriously, y'all females want to be taken seriously, then you do shit like calling people out their name and calling them bitches and all that stuff. And I was like, what do you mean you want to be taken seriously, you stupid bastard? You should take all people seriously. What the fuck are you talking about? And that's when I was like, oh, there's the misogyny leaking in. And so I can totally see where he might be that type of person where he's very emotionally abusive. I don't necessarily think that he per se, you never know. You don't know how people are behind closed doors. It doesn't feel like there's anything physical there. They both reassured Alex multiple times, he never put hands on me and never got physical. That is not what this was. So, you got to take it at face value one way or the other. But there is definitely some mentality that's in there where he kind of wants an old school, gender roles, be seen, not heard about his wife type shit, the way he kind of was talking about this stuff. So there was this weird duality here of A, not trying to put a horrible, crazy stereotype on him, but B, then also he's got this Hotep backwards ass shit. So he can kind of go fuck himself at the same time. So that was pretty much everything that went on with it. I genuinely found it very interesting this go around. The people that I were expecting to really not give a fuck about or be like, ugh, I actually ultimately was very pleasantly surprised. Taylor and Ashley, Leo and Brittany. And the folks that I was like, this is going to be interesting, this is going to be good, it seemed to get significantly worse. And that sucks. But I did not have Garrett and Taylor as my MVP couple of this season, but here we are, man. So let me know what you think. That is everything for the Love is Blind stuff. Tell me down in the comments. let's get to some nerdy shit because I know y'all been waiting for it. All right, man. Lanterns have cast Kelly Macdonald officially into the show. This is from Mark Cassidy, Comic Book Movie. Confirming a recent casting rumor, the trades are reporting that Kelly Macdonald has now officially signed on for a supporting role in the HBO series Lanterns. We had heard that the Scottish actress who had appeared in the likes of Trainspotting, No Country for Old Men, and Boardwalk Empire was up for the role of Hal Jordan's love interest, which led to speculation that she might be playing Starfire. While her character is expected to become romantically involved with Jordan, she doesn't appear to be playing an established DC Comics hero or villain. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Macdonald will play Sheriff Carey, a no-nonsense woman deeply devoted to her family and close-knit town. Her resilience, shaped by a complex past that hardened her resolve, anchors her when the community's secrets begin to surface. Macdonald joins Aaron Pierce from Rebel Ridge, who's playing Jon Stewart, Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights, who's playing Hal Jordan. In addition, Nexus Point News is reporting that Garrett Dillahunt and Porna Jongathan, oh my God, have been offered the roles of Dylan and Zoe. James Hughes, Slow Horses, Penny Dreadful, The Mist, The Alienists, and Snowpiercer will helm the first 2 episodes. He joins a creative team that includes Emmy Award-winning Lost and Watchmen creator Damon Lindelof, Ozark showrunner Chris Mundi, and comic book writer Tim King. Justin Britt Gibson, Brianna Gibson, and Vanessa Baden Kelly are also said to be on board. All right, and then right here, you can see this tweet from the Apocalyptic Horseman, the DC Blue Lantern scoop, Garrett Dillahunt and Aporna Jongathan. I ruined that again. Been offered the role of Dylan and Zoe. And then again for the characters, Hal's love interest is indeed the town sheriff, Carrie Kane. John does get into an affair with an older woman named Zoe. She's a Native American woman and the only person of color in an all-white town. So interesting. That's actually very, very interesting. I'm wondering how that's all going to come into play. But yeah, let us talk about it. All right, man. Again, this cast is shaping out to be kind of ridiculous. Like a lot of powerhouses here about all the creatives from top, above the line and below the line working on this. And I am so excited and curious to see, because again, the comps for this has really been True Detective with superheroes. And I'm here for that. I if you're going with the first season of True Detective, that's some of the strongest television that HBO's ever produced. So I'm very excited to see what this team of creatives can do with the story. I also find it interesting to see that, you're only really going to have Porna as the only woman of color, a Native American woman of color, and to be involved in an affair, how that affects, Jon Stewart coming in and being one of the, another person of color in the town, and how that will affect some of the storyline potentially. I think that could be actually very, very interesting as to what's going on. And I can't wait to kind of see ultimately who the villain is going to truly be in this whole scenario. If we're going to end up with a Sinestro type situation, if like fear is being manipulated somehow or whatever, just Sinestro and trying to stoke more fear so it ends up helping him gain more power from his ring, things like that. I'd just be really curious to see how it all plays out, man. But again, Kelly Macdonald is very, very talented, man. I'm familiar from her from both Trainspotting and Boardwalk Empire, so I am definitely here for it. But let me know what you think in the comments. You like how this cast is shaping up? What do you want to see from the story? Let me know. Let's go on to the next story. Quentin Tarantino praised Joker Folie, Deux, saying Todd Phillips was saying F you to the comic book geeks. So this is from Josh Walding at Comic Book Movie. Following a disastrous run at the box office, Joker Folie, Deux hit VOD platforms today on Warner Brothers, looks to recoup anything they can from a movie that promises to deliver a sizable loss. Neither critics nor audiences embrace the Joker sequel, but the movie has earned a mega fan in Pulp Fiction and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood helmer Quentin Tarantino. I really, really liked it. Really, he said on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, a lot, like tremendously. I went to see it expecting to be impressed by the filmmaking, but I thought it was going to be an arm's length intellectual exercise that ultimately I wouldn't think worked like a movie, but I think I would appreciate it for what it is. And I'm just nihilistic enough to enjoy a movie that doesn't quite work as a movie. That's like a big giant mess to some degree, Tarantino added, at least acknowledging its failings. I didn't find it an intellectual exercise. I really got caught up into it. I really liked the musical sequences. I got really caught up. I thought the more banal the songs were, the better they were. Revealing that he saw Joker Folie do in an almost empty IMAX theater, the filmmaker reiterated that he loved what Todd Phillips did with the movie, and on top of all of that, I thought it was really funny. So far, it almost sounds as if Tarantino had a so bad it was good experience with the Joker sequel. However, there was no irony to his comments, and the writer-director behind the likes of Django Unchained and Reservoir Dogs would go on to heap praise upon Phillips for what he did with Joker Folie Deux. Todd Phillips is the Joker. The Joker directed the movie, the entire concept. Even him spending the studio's money, he's spending it like the Joker would spend it, all right? And then his big surprise gift, the Jack in the Box, when he offers you his hand for a handshake and you get a buzzer with 10,000 volts shooting you, is the comic book geeks. He's saying F you to them. He's saying F you to the movie audience. He's saying F you to Hollywood. He's saying F you to anybody who owns any stock at DC and Warner Brothers. And Todd Phillips is a Joker. Un film de Joker. All right is what it is. He is the Joker. Well, that or he made a really shitty movie, right? Honestly, it feels like Tarantino is looking way too deeply into Joker Folie Deux, though his perspective is certainly an interesting one. Perhaps Phillips did just want to deliver an FU movie, but when it's said to lose Warner Brothers hundreds of millions of dollars and likely rob him of what would have been hefty bonuses had it reached the same level of success as Joker, we somehow doubt it. Yeah, look, I know Tarantino definitely is somebody who loves to kind of push the envelope and press back on society and all that. But yeah, I gotta kind of agree, like, bro, at a certain point, you just, I don't know. This is not the flex that you think it is, honestly. It wasn't a good movie. If you got that out of it, and that's the one thing about art, people can get stuff out of art that others might not see. If that's what Tarantino got out of it, great. And I can certainly see that as a perspective. I wouldn't be entirely surprised that that's what Todd Phillips actually was doing at a particular moment. But yeah, it was just genuinely bad. Honestly, it wasn't his best delivery. Todd Phillips has delivered some great stuff in the past. And I will say the filmmaking elements for sure. I still think the shots were brilliant. I thought the acting was brilliant, things like that. But I just think as like a story, it just wasn't very good. And this idea of trying to, well, it's not Harley Quinn. We're tired of that one. We're gonna do it. This is our own thing. It's played, man. If you don't want to tell, like, you can do your own versions of characters for sure. If you're gonna like really just kind of sideswipe that hard into your own thing, just then do your own IP. You don't need to anchor into something else. But you know, that's my 2 cents. What do you think? Do you agree with Tarantino? Let me know down in the comments. Let's go on to the next story, and this is a Halloween surprise for y'all. So in case y'all didn't see, my girl Megan Thee Stallion is now Starfire the Stallion, man. She went on IG with her costume for the Halloween season, and she has decided to fully dress herself as Starfire from DC Comics, man, and damn, she looks bad. Like, she's done a lot of stuff in the past, man. She was Todoroki at one point. I feel like I remember her doing a Goku at one point. She had just done a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure costume, but now we see her on to Starfire, the Tamarinian princess, like all with the crazy hair, showing her star bolts there and whatnot, and just being an overall bad bitch. I just really wanted to share this with you because happy Halloween. If you didn't see it, there is your candy. It was not a trick. It was all treat. Tell me what you think about her costumes. If you haven't seen them, go look up Megan Thee Stallion's costumes, man. She really brings it with her cosplay. And that's what you're supposed to do when you got money like that and you love something. You're supposed to do it to the fullest, and she did not hold back. So let me know, what is the coolest celebrity costume or cosplay that you have seen? Let me know in the comments. And what are you going for as Halloween? I want to know that too. I'm excited to share my photos. I'll maybe show some at the not the Blerd Breakdown now because my Halloween party's on Saturday, but next week I'll definitely do that, man. So yeah, let me know. Let's get to this last story real quick. So Jerry Jones, I have been, as a Cowboys fan, complaining about him for a minute here. And yeah, let's listen to some comments that he had. You know, he's got this radio show on The Fan where he talks about all of the things that are going on with the Cowboys and whatnot. That's something he does twice a week. And, you know, he's been called out and asked different questions, and his answers have been all over the place, but he had this to say.
I've always looked at the dollars we spend in football roster. I've always looked at them as scholarships. You give one player 5 scholarships. If it were college vernacular, you give another player 1 scholarship. The more guys you can have out there with 1 scholarship, the better off you are because of attrition.
Okay, look. First of all, why you would even make that comparison doesn't make any sense. These are not college students. First of all, we've already established that they need to be getting paid anyway for the violent sports that they're playing and all the money they're earning for those schools. They need to have been getting paid for their services, but they're not students. These are employees. So to even make that metaphor didn't make sense. On top of the fact that you don't give multiple scholarships to one student attending your college. They might get multiple scholarship offers from various colleges, but you don't go, all right, Winston, you're such a great quarterback. Here is 6 different scholarships for you at our school. That doesn't make logical sense. Like, it literally doesn't make sense. And so now, when you start to piece it together with the number of things Jerry has said, first it was Derrick Henry was too expensive for our cap. We can't do it at $6 million, which didn't make sense because I honestly think you could have gone to Dak and CD, even though they want to get paid, and be like, look, I'm not going to give you 60. I'm going to give you 58, but that's because I'm going to go get you the best running back in the league. Hey, CD, I'm not going to pay you 16 a year. I'm going to pay you 14 a year, and then maybe we can restructure with some bonus stuff because I'm going to go get the best running back in the league, or I'm going to go get this defensive run defense player. If you position it like that, I guarantee you're saying you're going to get paid and we're going to go win a chip. They probably would have considered something like that, but instead you pussyfooted around with the money all season and then didn't go get anybody, and then you paid these 2 guys, and now the team is kind of falling apart. And then when asked again about Derrick Henry a few weeks later, do you feel any differently now seeing where he's going? He's correct, and I don't necessarily think he would be on a record-setting season, but he definitely would have been good. What Jerry said was, well, I don't think he would have been the same on our team. And on top of that, he doesn't fit into our offense. Bitch, he's the best running back in the league. You make him fit. And if anything, he would have fit because the reason Dak is in trouble is because you can't set up the run. Because you don't set up the run, you can't set up the play action. So he's trying to force balls where they don't need to go because he doesn't have a second option. He's trying to force 17 targets a game to fucking CeeDee Lamb, and then he ends up making mistakes because he's tired throwing the ball 50, 55 times a fucking game. So no, that is a nonsense thing. Then at another point, he thinks our plays are absolutely great. Our coaching staff is great. I'm not going to fire my McCarthy, but then want to turn around and say, I don't think that our coach is drawing up really good, schemes. I think our schemes are bad. What I'm starting to see here, and as angry as I've been with essentially Jerry the GM and then Jerry the PR guy trying to speak for him and all of that, is I was like, there's conflicting info of you just made bad decisions for the team this season and for the last few seasons, essentially. Now it feels like when you start to hear these interviews and you kind of see he's contradicting himself a lot or he's making metaphors that don't make sense, I'm starting to genuinely wonder if something is wrong. I don't have any sort of thing where a report has come out or anything like that. There was something about some of his kids were in a very bad car accident recently. It sounds like they're okay, but it was a freak accident that was terrifying. Who knows if maybe there's just a lot of turmoil from there where he's emotionally unstable from that. He had mentioned multiple times, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. And he talked about doctor's visits in previous interviews. So I don't know if there is something happening with him or whatever. But it feels like at the end of the day, it reminds me of watching Biden where he's here, but he's obviously slipping. Watching Trump, he's here, but he's obviously slipping. Of watching older folks that haven't quite let their station go, but they're not on the top of their game anymore. They're not clipping at 100%. They're clipping at 80%, 60%, maybe less. And there's a point at which it was like, bro, you've been successful, you made money. At what point do you not enjoy your rewards, reap the rewards and go let the next generation come in? And so with that being said, I'm very curious what y'all think. If you think that maybe Jerry is potentially losing it one way or the other. And I'm actually going to do a deeper dive into the boomers and the older generation, and specifically how this isn't unique just to Jerry Jones. As I mentioned with Biden and Trump, I mean, you could say that about the entire political spectrum. The fact that Mitch McConnell has had full meltdowns. The fact that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was holding on for dear life instead of retiring at an earlier moment that may have done some stuff. She stayed until she died. Dianne Feinstein, all of that. But it could be said about jobs in every sector, in the industry, and all that, in housing. There's been this hoarding of power and wealth by the baby boomers, and it's actually setting everyone else up to potentially fail. So I'm going to do a deeper dive into that on a separate video. But let me know what you think about this in the comments. And that is it for the Blerd Breakdown. Thank you so much for watching, man. Again, please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, and leave a comment on your favorite story about what's going on, etc., etc. I will be doing the Funny Fridays thing. It'll probably be another Saturday one, just to kind of space stuff out a little bit. I got to talk to Christian. I most likely will not be on Capes and Cows tomorrow just because I have never been to a victory parade, and I got to do that. It is what it is. He's probably going to be a little pissed about that, especially with it being the Yankees losing. But yeah, we've got all that going on, man. And I'm excited to get back to streaming again. I will do that soon. My computer is really not good now, so I'm trying to save up some money right now for a computer once this commercial, which is supposed to start playing come November, so I'm hoping it starts tomorrow. That'd be dope. Once that comes in, I'll probably go and invest in a new machine, and then I'll be able to start streaming and doing live stuff again. Because obviously you've seen me on Capes and Cows, you've seen me on, Spill the Tequila and stuff like that, but that's like a bare minimum. Somebody else's machine is handling all the graphics and whatnot versus mine is not doing a very good job. I've tried a couple times or it's lagging out on me when I try and do stuff. So that I want to change that as soon as I can. But with that, thank you so much for watching the show. I will see you on the next one. Y'all stay safe out there. Let's go Dodgers. Peace.